On January 24, 2023, a tragedy inside a family home in Duxbury, Massachusetts, shocked the country. Lindsay Clancy, a labor and delivery nurse and mother of 3, killed her 3 young children, 5-year-old Cora, 3-year-old Dawson, and 8-month-old Callan. Afterward, Clancy jumped from a second-story window and survived, but suffered injuries that left her paralyzed. She was later charged with murder and pleaded not guilty. From the beginning, the case centered on a deeply contested question. Prosecutors say Clancy deliberately planned the killings. Her defense acknowledges that she killed the children but argues that severe mental illness, including postpartum psychosis, meant she was not criminally responsible for her actions. Now, more than 3 years later, Lindsay Clancy is on trial, and new testimony and forensic evidence are giving jurors a much closer look at what happened before, during, and after that night.
Massachusetts.
And in 2023, where did you work?
Kingsbury Club.
Where is the Kingsbury Club?
In Kingston.
And how long did you work for that club?
4 years.
What is the Kingsbury Club?
It is a tennis club, but it also has like a gym. It's kind of like a Y where people can come and drop their kids off in the playroom and stuff like that.
Okay, is it a private facility?
Yes.
So members only?
Yes.
And you mentioned dropping kids off. What was your role at the Kingsbury Club?
So I was the child service director, so I ran all the kids programming and the playroom.
So what is the playroom at the Kingsbury Club?
So the playroom is a room where parents can drop their kids off for 2 hours a day so that they can work out.
And what's the...
Kimberly Hardy's connection to the Clancy family came through an ordinary part of their daily routine. As the Children's Services Director at the Kingsbury Club, she oversaw the playroom where members could leave their children while exercising. Her testimony would give the jury another perspective on Lindsay Clancy and her children before the tragedy, what she observed, what appeared normal, and whether anything stood out at the time.
Do you know the Clancy family?
Yes.
And how do you know them?
Went to school with Pat and then met Lindsay later.
And so when you say you went to school with Pat, fair to say you went to Salve?
Yes.
And did you know Pat before school?
No.
And did you become friends with him in school?
Yes.
When you graduated from college, did you remain friends with Patrick?
Yes.
And is your husband also a friend of Patrick's?
Yes.
Did they meet at college or just someplace else?
In college.
At some point, did you come to know Lindsay Clancy?
Yes.
And do you remember approximately when you were introduced to her?
A few years after college, maybe 12, 13 years ago.
And where were you living then when you first met her?
Boston.
Okay, how about Pat? Was he living in Boston as well?
I believe so.
And what was your relationship like with Patrick after college? Were you close?
Yes, friends. Close.
And as he began a relationship with Lindsay, did you become friendly with her?
Yeah.
Did you have that same relationship with Lindsay that you had with Pat?
No.
Sarah Carney offered the jury a different kind of perspective. She wasn't examining forensic evidence or reconstructing a timeline. She had known Patrick Clancy since college and later came to know Lindsay as their lives became connected. Her testimony gave jurors a view of the family through someone who knew them personally, long before their private lives became the focus of a courtroom.
What was the relationship like between your families starting in 2019?
Close, friendly, went to the beach together, had them over at our house, went to their house, that kind of thing.
And as the Clancys start having children and you started having children, did that remain throughout?
Yeah, probably fewer times, just because we're all busy, but yeah.
And were you around after each of the Clancy children were born? Meaning after Cora was born, you were still part of Patrick's life?
Yeah.
Did you notice any changes in Lindsay after Cora was born?
No.
And how about Dawson? When Dawson came along, did you notice any changes in Lindsay after Dawson was born?
No.
And then Callan, who was born in May of 2022, were you still friendly with them and still doing those trips and going to each other's houses,
Yep.
beach trips?
Yep.
So did you notice anything different about Lindsay after Callan was born?
No.
Do you recall observing Lindsay or seeing Lindsay when she was pregnant with Callan?
Yes.
Fair to say she was a pretty active person.
Yes.
And even in pregnancy, being very pregnant, she was physically active.
Yes.
Do you recall what kind of exercise she did or seeing her exercise or?
I remember her posting videos of her exercising and the kids were in the background.
Things do you rely upon when making a diagnosis other than a tool like this?
Observation of the patient, the history that they're relating, the information from family and other, that's essentially it, and other records if available.
Okay, and you use that information based on your own training and experience
Yes.
to come up with a diagnosis.
Yes.
And your diagnosis, does that have to agree with anyone else?
No.
And when you're treating a patient that comes before you for help at McLean, you're treating the patient in front of you, or you're treating the patient from several months ago?
You take the history into consideration, but you're treating the patient in front of you because that's the presentation.
That distinction is important. The expert told the jury that a psychiatric diagnosis isn't based on a single test or questionnaire. Doctors consider what they observe, what the patient reports, information from family members, available medical records, and the patient's history. But they are ultimately evaluating the person who is sitting in front of them at that particular moment. And in Lindsay Clancy's case, that raises a difficult question: how accurately could any single appointment capture what her mental state may have been changing into over time? That question becomes even more significant when you look at her medication history. In court, prosecutors began going through Lindsay Clancy's medications bottle by bottle, comparing what had been prescribed with what investigators later found. The numbers mattered because prosecutors were trying to establish whether she had been taking her medications as directed. But the testimony also revealed a more complicated picture. Patrick Clancy testified that Lindsay's prescriptions had been changed repeatedly as doctors responded to her condition. Some medications were added, others were discontinued, and dosages changed over time. So the medication records created another question for the jury: were they looking at evidence that Lindsay wasn't following her treatment, or evidence of a treatment plan that itself was repeatedly changing? Then the testimony moved from medical records to physical evidence recovered from the home. At the center of that evidence were exercise bands. A DNA analyst testified about testing performed on the bands and the DNA profiles associated with them. According to the testimony presented in court, DNA associated with each of the 3 children was detected on particular bands: the yellow band connected to Dawson, the black band to Cora, and the blue band to Callan. On its face, that sounds extremely significant. But there was another detail for the jury to consider: these were exercise bands kept inside the family home, and testimony indicated that members of the family had handled them before that night. So the DNA could help establish contact with the bands. But the larger question was what that contact could actually prove about when, why, or under what circumstances the DNA was deposited.
You've already said she told you she wasn't having audio or visual hallucinations, correct?
Yes.
Did you ask her if she was having suicidal ideation or homicidal ideation?
Yes.
And what was her response?
No.
What was her affect that day?
It was depressed.
And did she tell you during your conversation that day that she had been anxious all day, not depressed or irritable, getting better?
Yes.
Okay, so she's telling you she's not depressed, but her affect to you appeared depressed. Is that correct?
Yes.
And is that for the same reasons you stated earlier, those visual cues that you saw?
Yes.
Did she appear hyper or manic in any way?
No.
Was there any changes in her rate of speech or pattern of speech?
No.
Was there any difference in her mental status exam?
No.
And this appointment, was this appointment virtual as well?
Yes.
Had all your appointments up to this point been virtual?
Yes.
But the case presented to the jury isn't built only around psychiatric evaluations and medical records. There is also physical evidence from inside and outside the Clancy home. Investigators documented blood evidence from multiple locations, including Lindsay's hands, areas inside the home, and the shingles below the second-story window. Together, those locations helped authorities reconstruct portions of her movements that night. But forensic testing also had limitations. According to testimony presented in court, investigators did not recover usable fingerprints from either the knife or the exercise bands. That left the jury with physical evidence showing where blood and DNA were found, but not necessarily answering every question about how each item was handled. Another part of the prosecution's case focused on time, specifically, the period when Patrick Clancy was away from the house. Detectives reconstructed his movements using available records and placed his arrival at a restaurant at approximately 5:54 p.m. According to testimony, his stop there lasted only about a minute. Prosecutors have focused on the timing of those errands as they argue that Lindsay created an opportunity to be alone at home. But the timeline itself cannot explain what was happening in her mind during those minutes. That remains one of the central disputes in this trial. But beyond the forensic evidence, medication records, and minute-by-minute timeline, jurors were also shown something far more personal: Lindsay Clancy's own writing. A journal recovered from the home contained an entry in which she wrote, "I'm completely overwhelmed trying to take care of the 3 kids. I feel like I'm drowning every day." Those words gave the jury something the physical evidence could not: a glimpse into what Lindsay herself had written about the pressures she was experiencing. But like so much of the evidence in this trial, the meaning of those words, and how much weight they should carry, is ultimately something the jury will have to consider alongside everything else they've heard. So this is where the Lindsay Clancy trial stands for now. Jurors have heard testimony about her mental health treatment, medication history, physical evidence from the home, DNA testing, the timeline of Patrick Clancy's errands, and Lindsay's own private writings. But the central question before the court remains unresolved. The prosecution and defense are asking the jury to interpret much of the same evidence in very different ways, particularly when it comes to Lindsay Clancy's state of mind and criminal responsibility. And because this trial is still unfolding, this story isn't finished. More witnesses may testify, more evidence may be discussed, and the picture presented to the jury may continue to change. StoryForge will follow the verified developments as they happen. When the next significant update comes from the courtroom, we'll continue from exactly where we stopped today. If you want to follow the next chapter of the Lindsay Clancy trial, subscribe to StoryForge and turn on notifications.